Let's continue to the back. Start part 2. Okay, so simplify each expression. Assume that variables are positive, okay, and rewrite the following expressions using only positive exponents, so no negative exponents in their answers. Okay, let's start this off. We got a cube root of 8a to the third b to the ninth. So we can say, well, what times itself 3 times equals this part inside the radicand. So we'll do it piece by piece. What times itself 3 times is 8? And you get 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. And what times itself 3 times is a to the third? Okay, that would just be a times a times a. And what times itself 3 times is b to the ninth? And then you'll get b to the third, b to the third, b to the third. Those add up to 9. 3 plus 3 plus 3. So the cube root of this would equal 2ab to the third. Remember, there's several ways of doing this. If you want to use the fraction exponent method, you could say, there's our inside, and instead of cube root, raise it to the 1/3 power, and then you just have to take the cube root of, or the 1/3 power of 8, which is 2. 3 times 1/3 is 1, a to the 1, and 9 times 1/3 is 3. And you'll get the same result. So two methods, perfectly both okay, get the same answer. Okay, number 6, let's do the cube root of 27 and square it. Cube, what times itself 3 times is 27? You get 3. Bring down the square. That's just 9. 25 to the 3 over 2. So we have 25 to the 1/2. Right, to the third power. Break it up into 2 pieces. And 25 to the 1/2 is the same as the square root of 25. And then square root of 25 is 5. Bring down the third power, and we get 125. 5 times 5 times 5. And number 8. Let's see here. Let's just multiply our coefficients together, and then we have our r's, and then we'll have the t. So really just 3 smaller parts. So 2 times -4 is -8, and r to the third and r to the 1 is r to the 4th, and t to the 1 and t to the 5th is t to the 6th. There we go. Let's see here. 1/3 x squared y to the third power. So that's the same as just writing this out 3 times. So same thing as we did over here. 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3. 1 over 27. X squared times x squared times x squared. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. And y times y times y is y to the third. Number 10, we have a negative, so this is going to be 2 parts, 2 steps. Let's first do, how about to the third power, and then to the -1, since -3 equals 3 times -1. Just breaking it up into 2 steps. So 2 to the third power equals 8, and raise that to -1 is 1 over 8. Note that you could also do this in the opposite order. It wasn't a right way. How do I know to put the 3 here and the -1 here? You could do it the other way, because -3 also equals -1 times 3. The order does not matter. Okay. So we could flip this, flip 2, be 1/2, and then raise that to the third power, 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, and you also get 1/8. Same answer. So there wasn't a right way of how I picked the order here. Okay, 11. We have 2 A's on top and 6 on the bottom. We have 11 B's on top, 5 on the bottom. We have no C's on top, 1 C on the bottom. Well, at least I know the C is not going to move. It doesn't cancel with anything. So imagine you have 2 on top, 6 on the bottom. So these two will cancel out with 2 of these on the bottom, and you'll have 4 left over because 2 of them were canceled out. Same thing with the B's. If you have 5 on the bottom, those 5 will cancel out with 5 of these. So there's 5 fewer, so there's only 6 left over. So we got B to the 6th. Another way is simply just to expand it out all the way. And then you can see, keep on going to 11 B's, and you can see what actually cancels, okay, and what's left over. Okay, continue there. Okay, let's keep going. We have to, simplify the fraction. Let's do that first. What's 8 over 14 reduced to? Okay, maybe divide top and bottom by 2. So we'll get 4 over 7. So we know, start off we'll have 4 over 7. The y to the negative 2 will move to the bottom. There's already a y down there. See? Move that negative 2 to the bottom. That's now a positive 2. And since this is to the 1 power, we can simplify a little bit more and combine the two y's together. So we have 4 over 7 and then y to the third. Good. And more of the same. Just simplify the coefficients first. What's 24 divided by 6? And we have 4 over 1, but you don't have to put the over 1. Okay, we have p to the 5th on top, p to the 7th on the bottom. So 5 of these p's will cancel out with 5 of these on the bottom. So there's 5 fewer. So there's only 2 p's left over once they cancel out. And again, a negative exponent, we're going to move that to the top. So that's q to the third positive 3 power. Once I move it, it turns into a positive. Since that's a q by itself, it's q to the 1. So we have a q to the 4th power. So 4q to the 4th over p to the 2nd. Keep it going. Everything here is raised to a negative 2 power. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 9x to the 3rd times y to the 2nd, and then at the very end, I'm going to flip it. So always break this up into 2 parts. So what is 9x to the 3rd y times 9x to the 3rd y? So you'll get 81, 9 times 9, x to the 3rd, or 3 times 2, x to the 6th, and then 1 times 2, right? And then raise that to the negative 1, which just means make it a fraction. So that's 1 over the same thing. Good. Negative 1/2 power. So 1/2 power means square root, negative means flip it. So let's do the 1/2 power. We got square root of 4x squared would be 2x, since 2x times 2x is 4x squared. And then we also have that negative, so don't forget about that. Let's do 1 over 2x. That will take care of that. 32n to the negative 5 over, to the 1/5 power. Let's see here. A couple ways we can do this. the inside the parentheses, that negative 5 power, if we move the n to the negative 5th power to the bottom, it will look like this. And then the 5th root of that. What times itself 5 times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals this. So the bottom is pretty straightforward. That'd be n times n times n times n times n. That'll be n to the 5th. But what times 5 times equals the 32? After a little trial and error, you'll get just 2. 2 to the 5th power equals that. So our answer is going to be just 2 over n. Okay. Wrapping this up pretty quick. 17. Let's do the cube root of negative 1 x to the third. So what times itself 3 times? It's negative 1 x to the third. And you'll end up with, well, x times x is the x to the third, and to get negative 1, you'll just need a negative 1 for each of these. So we know that this part equals negative 1x, and then we'll need to square it last. So we have negative 1x, square that, so that's negative 1x times negative 1x, which equals 1x squared, or just x squared. Simplify all the way. Okay, let's do the third root of 64x to the 6th to the 1/2 power. A couple ways of doing this. About order of operations, we can take the square root of this pretty easily. Let's start that way. We'll have the cube root, and the square root of 64 is 8, and the square root, or 6 times a half, would be 3. Okay. That's the same thing as saying what times itself equals 64x to the 6th, and that would be 8x to the third. And now take the cube root of that. Okay, so what times itself now 3 times cube root equals the 8x to the third. And then we'll get 2 times 2 times 2, because that equals 8, and then x times x times x. That's x to the third. So 2x. Last problem. Okay, so we're going to be doing some negative exponents and non-negative exponents. So a couple ways of doing this. We could simplify everything on the inside here. That'll give us, let's see, 3 over, right, these are going to be moving since they're negative exponents, x to the positive 1, y to the positive 2. I didn't write the 1, don't have to. And then raise that to the negative 2 power. So from here, let's do the negative, flip it. So we have this, right, same as it above, just flipped now to the positive 2, because I use the negative to flip it. And now square this, so if you multiply this times itself, you'll get x squared, y to the 4th, okay. Or 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. Don't forget the bottom, you have to do the same thing here. 3 to the 2nd power is 9. Okay. There's a couple other ways of doing this. Either way, if it gets this answer, would be perfectly fine. Alright, so that's the review. Go ahead and do this several times. Make sure you can do it all by yourself with no help, and know how to do all the steps on your own, and then you'll be ready for your test. Good luck.